Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whatever time zone you're at, or whatever time you happen to watch this video. Welcome to Brad's Corner of the Cheap Seats, where the seats are obviously cheap, just like the production of this show. Hope everybody is doing great, wherever you're at, like I said. So, what we're going to be doing today is following up the last episode, the last two episodes of the Cheap Seats. We're going to be recapping some of the action from week one of the NFL and prepping for some of the action going into week two. Now, I know what you're saying, so why are we having this additional show if we just did, the live version of the Cheap Seats with Brian and Jason? What we're going to be doing in Brad's Corner is we're going to be going through in detail, breaking down some of these games, giving you some insight on what really went down, maybe a little bit of fantasy value for you, and just some added details on what's really going on with the NFL as a whole and with some of these games. So, one thing I want to get into starting off with specifically just stating the NFL, right? One thing that you might have noticed this past week is that the NFL has transitioned to a live replay official. So, there's a guy actively watching each one of these games, and he's able to see in real time, what's going on. Did that ball bounce before the defender picked it off? Did that guy step out of bounds before he got, control of the catch? What the whole purpose of that is to reduce some of the coaches' challenges and also reduce some of the lag time that we have waiting to figure out, was it a catch? Was it a fumble? Was it this? Was it that? We actually have somebody watching in real time and we can get through this stuff a lot faster. Better flow, better pace of the game, and just overall better watchability. So, getting into a couple of things for the Cowboys and Buccaneers game. So, we talked about it a little bit in length on the show Monday night with Brian and Jason. Just going to get a little bit more detail as far as that game goes, right? So the strategy that Dallas had coming out I thought was perfect. Wrote down some notes. I thought Kellen Moore did a great job scheming that game, but also giving Dak Prescott the freedom to check in and out of plays. He said after the game that Prescott checked out of no less than 12 running plays based on the looks that he was getting from the defense. So what is that really telling you? It's telling you that Dak Prescott's ability to not only read coverages but understand what defenses are trying to do to him is far more advanced than we've seen in recent years. He's getting to be that field general that you look for, the guy that knows where to go with the ball at all times and is going to be able to alter protections, make adjustments, or just kill plays and change them completely. Some of the stuff he's been doing, my point is that he's doing it at a way higher level than what we've seen. The accuracy was there. We didn't see any rust. He had a ball a game. He went out there and balled out. Is what I'm meaning there. Tom Brady, same thing, right? We keep waiting for this guy to get old. Keep waiting for the arm to go away. It's just his fundamentals and mechanics from the base up, throwing the football, allow this guy to hold himself to a standard that other quarterbacks don't. Everything that he does, his nutrition and etc. allows him to continue to play at a high level at 44. I mentioned on the first episode that I participated in with the Cheap Seats with Brian and Jason that I didn't think that losing Zach Martin for this first game was end all be all problem. I did allude to if they lost Tyron Smith or La'el Collins, similar to what they did last year, that they were going to be in some trouble. So as you saw, had no problems in pass protection for the most part. That had a lot to do with Prescott knowing where to go with the ball. Where it did hurt them is later in the game. They obviously knew they weren't going to be able to run effectively, which is why they had the game plan that they did the last 2 years. Tampa actually has the best rush defense in the NFL. So they knew going into the game that's probably not a great idea. Where it hurt late in the game is where Vita Vea started to really tee off and wear down those interior offensive linemen. There's a couple times where Vita Vea, all 350 plus pounds of him, is right in Dak Prescott's lap, and it kind of altered what the Dallas offense was able to do later in the game. Ultimately, they were able to go take the lead. They just gave Brady too much time. Those 7 points that they missed, by the kicking team, Greg Zuerlein, is what cost them the game. Again, I'm going to harp on. There's no better opportunity to beat that Buccaneers team than what the Dallas Cowboys just got. 4 turnovers, 100-plus yards in penalties, uncharacteristic misses from Tom Brady at times. that's when they should have been able to take him out. So it's unfortunate that they weren't able to. That's how it goes. You gotta play 60 minutes. You gotta beat Brady. You can't give him the opportunity to come back and tie you or come back and kick a field goal to win the game. He's gonna do it 99 times out of 100. So we'll go and break down some of these games, kind of give you a little bit of notes. We'll talk about the rookie quarterbacks. I hinted on, I thought Mac Jones and Zach Wilson were going to be 1 and 2 as far as production from the rookie quarterbacks for the year. We'll talk about their performances a little bit, as well as Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to start off with the Chargers and Washington game. Coming into the season, I thought Washington was going to have just a fantastic defense. We know they got 4 first-round picks on the defensive line. They're ready to take that step to become that elite defense. Justin Herbert put it on them, right? 328 yards, pinpoint accuracy on a lot of these throws. He ultimately ensured the Chargers won this game. His efficiency from a quarterback perspective, which is interesting, he was worse throwing the ball on early downs than he was on second and third down. So meaning, right now in the NFL, the advantageous thought is we're going to throw on first and second down, contrary to what the NFL has been for so long. Being more efficient on second and third down is usually not, and also fourth down obviously is not usually the case, because you got defensive coordinators sending pressure, trying to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. So for Herbert to be more efficient later in the downs is very interesting to see if that's something that he continues to trend on. And just his overall performance from his rookie year going into now, I mean, outside of Dak Prescott and maybe some other hits here and there quarterbacks, I don't really remember somebody coming into the league and being this consistent this early and showing so much ability on the field. A couple other things. Fitzmagic got hurt. Looks like old Fitzmagic is going to be out for a large majority of the season. So this gives a gigantic opportunity to Taylor Heineke, which, if you remember in the NFC playoffs last year, he gave Tampa Bay a run for their money. That defense that you saw take out the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, he was doing some nice things to them. So Tyler Heineke has the opportunity of a lifetime right here. Maybe he solidifies himself a starting job, earns himself a big contract. We'll see if that happens. If he can go out there and win some games for them, he's got a bag coming his way. I thought Ron Rivera said that it was Taylor's Heineke show going forward, so the talk of Cam Newton coming to Washington doesn't sound like it's going to happen. They signed a guy to the practice squad, Kyle Shermer, to shore up depth. That's not somebody they're going to be looking to start, but it doesn't sound like there's going to be any Cam Newton going to rejoin Ron Rivera. Moving on to Seattle versus Indianapolis. Russell Wilson had himself a fantastic day throwing the football, very efficient. Deep ball was on point like it always is with Russell Wilson. Those teardrop throws that he has, seems like they go into the rafters and just drop down in the perfect spot. Him and Tyler Lockett continue their special connection. Once or twice a game, Russell Wilson's going to find Tyler Lockett for a good 30, 40, plus yard gain, it seems like. Russell Wilson is going to be extremely happy with that offense so far that they're utilizing. 50% play action on the passing plays that they had. It's a huge increase from where they were at before with that rush-heavy offense that Pete Carroll is so familiar with. The Let Russ Cook campaign is going to be in full effect this year. 4 touchdown passes from Russell Wilson, spreading the ball around nicely. Hit Gerald Everett, the tight end they brought in from the Rams. Looks like that's something to watch for you fantasy players out there. That might be a guy that they incorporate into that offense. They've been looking for a tight end that can move around real well. They do have Will Dissly. They got some things they can do at tight end for mismatches right now. Hit DK Metcalf for a touchdown. That guy's going to continue to be a monster. Look out for the Seahawks this year. Defense is going to be a little bit more improved. They're going to be going some places if they can stay consistent and not fall off like they did last year, which I think had a lot to do with the offense they were running. Ran the ball extremely well on the Seattle side. 5.7 yards a carry for Chris Carson. Again, you fantasy managers out there, play Chris Carson. Colts did not run the ball well, weren't very efficient throwing the ball either. Their 2 leading receivers were running backs. Good fantasy value, but probably not a recipe for success if you're looking to win football games. 9 times out of 10, or maybe 80% of the time, you're not going to want your leading receivers to be the running backs. Wentz lost a fumble. Obviously, you're going to be looking out for ball security issues. Had one of the highest turnover margins as a quarterback in the NFL a year ago with the Eagles. Look for him to see if he can stay healthy, like we talked about on the first show. If he does, maybe Frank Reich can get him back on track. But if not, we might be seeing some inefficient offense from the Colts and Carson Wentz. Looking at the Eagles and Falcons, one of the games that lost me my parlay for the week. I did not expect the Falcons to get run over like that. They lost this battle in the trenches straight up. The Eagles' defensive line did what they wanted to do. The Falcons' offense all day long. Matt Ryan was pressured often, did not have a great day throwing the football. Matt Ryan finished with a 4.7 yard per attempt average, which is abysmal for an NFL quarterback. It's not going to win you any games. The person that I didn't expect to come out here and ball out in week 1 in the NFL, Jalen Hurts. The guy had 270 yards passing, 3 passing touchdowns, and 62 yards rushing. Was able to move in and out of the pocket very well. I think 2 of those 3 touchdowns were on the run, moving to his right, hitting one of the guys on the front line of the end zone, the other one a little bit deeper for those touchdowns. Got Devontae Smith involved, right? Great to see. People are wondering how Devontae Smith is going to do with that very thin frame coming out of Alabama. Is he going to be able to beat press coverage? Is he going to be able to do these things with the NFL cornerback size? First game looked pretty good. Got himself a touchdown. The majority of the first-round receivers had pretty good weeks. Jalen Waddle with the Miami Dolphins had himself 4 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown. Jamar Chase, we'll get to him in a little bit with the Bengals, had himself a day as well. But, hey, if that's the way the Eagles' defensive line is going to play consistently and Jalen Hurts is going to be able to, have those timely throws, be that accurate, and be able to move in out of the pocket and add some yards on the ground, Eagles might be, an above average, slightly above average to competitive football team throughout the season. Matt Ryan and the Falcons, I don't know where these guys are going. Arthur Smith, the new head coach from Tennessee, is going to have to figure out how to bring that offensive magic that he had with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill over there to get Matt Ryan back on track and do something with that team. Steelers versus the Bills, right? Man, what a defensive matchup for the majority of this game. Just a slugfest with the top heavyweights in the AFC. Didn't think Ben had a very efficient day, but he started to figure it out later in the game. We're wondering, is there enough left in Ben Roethlisberger's arm? We're still seeing a little bit of velocity lost on some of these throws. Anything 15 yards, 20 yards, he's still able to, dart it in there pretty decently for the most part. There might have been a lot of issues with, what Ben was thinking or what he was seeing, operating a new offense for the first time in quite a while. That offense is going to ask him to do some different things. Get out of shotgun, do play action a bit more, something that he hasn't historically done very often. If you look around the NFL right now, play action is huge because it works. Even when you're not running the ball well, statistically, if you look at all the data, play action is still very effective because those linebackers have to take that 1 second, that one step, or that one thought process to figure out if that play is a run or if it's a pass. And that's why you see so many effective offenses and those offensive coordinators that are calling effective offenses in the NFL right now are heavy play action, and their schemes are to do motions, right? We're doing motions across the formations with the wide receivers, the tight ends, the running backs. We're doing motions to identify not only, hey, what is this defense in? Are they in man? Are they in zone? So we're doing motions to identify coverage to help the quarterbacks out. We're doing motion to confuse the defense and also find mismatches across, those lines. The motion is extremely important right now for informational purposes and also for these offenses to continue to find ways to beat defenses and stay ahead of them. Josh Allen throwing the ball 51 times. Hey, Mr. Brian Dabble, throw your light bulb off in your head real quick. This game finished 23-16. There is no reason whatsoever that Josh Allen should have had to throw this ball 51 times. I heard somebody say, well, they had to come back late in the game. How far are they coming back from? Like, they weren't down, 20 plus points or something crazy like that. Like, they still had time to run this ball efficiently. And when I'm saying that, Devin Singletary had 11 carries, 72 yards. That breaks out to 6.5 yards a carry. What it seems like to me is Brian Daboll and that offense needed to stay patient, continue to run the rock throughout the game, and try to stick together. Obviously, the punt block did not help the Steelers return for a touchdown, and an overall 17-point fourth quarter from the Steelers offense and team as a whole is what did the Bills in. Kind of seems like to me the Steelers have the Bills number right now. They're 5-1 versus the Bills in the last 6 games. That's going to be something to pay attention to towards the end of the season as we look at the AFC playoffs. Don't know how it's going to work out for the Steelers. Obviously, we saw them go 11 straight wins last year and then finish 1-4 the rest of the way. That could happen again. We don't know. What we do know is that Steelers defense is just as mean as it ever was. TJ Watt, huge payday, got alongside him Melvin Ingram. So Melvin Ingram used to be with the Chargers. Mean guy off the edge. Still has the juice to get to the quarterback, as we saw evident multiple times, in a Steelers uniform, and that's what the Steelers love to do. They love to pressure the quarterback and get after you and make life miserable. If Melvin Ingram is going to stay healthy alongside TJ Watt, that's going to replace the loss they felt from Bud Dupree going to Tennessee, and it's going to be nasty to play against those guys the entire season, just like it was last year, as long as they don't get run down from the offense having to keep them on the field too long. 49ers at Detroit. Kyle Shanahan has got to be thanking his lucky stars that there was not more time in this game. But he also should be putting a sticky note on his head saying, hey, remember that I can run the ball late in games to get out of there. We've seen this story before. Kyle Shanahan in the Super Bowl with the Falcons, up 28-3. He's trying to throw the ball too often. Gets the sack, takes him out of field goal range, makes him lose that game. Sitting right here, you're up 41-17 on Detroit late in the fourth quarter, and it's third and short, and we got Jimmy Garoppolo out there trying to throw the ball. Kyle, just run the rock, man. You run it efficiently. Your offense had a great day running the football. Do more of that. Don't give the opportunity for your defense to go out there and let the fighting Jared Goffs put up 18 points on you in just a couple minutes. It's not a good look. Couple notes from that game. Jimmy Garoppolo was very effective. He threw for 314 yards on only 17 completions. Now, that's a great day for any quarterback. Deebo Samuel, 9 catches for 189 yards, just going up and down the field, going off, doing whatever he wanted to do. Kittle also had a great game, especially blocking. Him and Trent Williams getting after people on pulls or coming around the edges is not what you want to see. If you want to go have fun watching offensive linemen, watch running plays from the San Francisco 49ers where Trent Williams pulls across and goes and finds a linebacker or a defensive back and just throws them out the club and puts them to another stratosphere. It's great stuff to watch. Surprises for me. Cardinals versus Titans are very high on my surprise of the weekend list. The Cardinals absolutely showed up in Tennessee and put it on the Titans every way, shape, or form. This game was never in doubt, never close. The first quarter, Chandler Jones had 3 sacks. Now, that should be an indication to the offensive coordinator, the quarterback, and the entire team. We need to send a running back or tight end to the left side of the offensive line and chip Chandler Jones. Double team him, whatever it's going to take. You can't let him wreck the game for you. They never really did that. I know J.J. Watt's over there. I know Marcus Golden's over there. It's hard to double team, meaning using 2 offensive linemen on a specific defender. That's okay. You don't necessarily have to do that. What I'm saying is you didn't give your left tackle any help. Taylor Lewan's coming off an off-season surgery last year. It showed. He admitted as much after the game, saying that he's got to be better. He was horrible. Man, offensive coordinators, help your guys out. Send the running back over there. You weren't running the ball effectively anyway. Send Derrick Henry over there, or whoever the backup is. You can't let one player wreck a game like that. You got to make adjustments. Kyler Murray was phenomenal. There was at times last year where he looked like the MVP. Until he got injured, I believe it was a shoulder strain late in the year. kind of slowed him down. He wasn't able to run the offense as effectively as he was. Man, he looked like Superman out there, making people miss, running around when he need to, buying time, accurate. He's tear-dropping 55-yard touchdowns off of his back foot, beating blitzes, dropping it in the bucket for Christian Kirk like it's just another day a walk in the park. If this is what the Arizona Cardinals are going to look like, they have a fight in their division. They have a good team on their hands. The question is, they brought in a lot of over 30 free agents in the offseason, right? J.J. Watt, as a Houston Texans fan, we know that he has a large amount of injuries in his career. Bringing in Rodney Hudson, the center, obviously that's another 30-plus guy. Chandler Jones is getting up there in age, obviously still effective. But these guys have injury concerns. A.J. Green as well. Now, if that team manages to stay healthy like I'm talking about, you're looking at, a playoff team for sure, somebody that's going to be very difficult to deal with. Because, again, it's a strong defensive line. Concerns for them is their cornerback depth, being able to handle people. But you do have Budda Baker over there at safety, and you got Byron Murphy at corner who's looking pretty good. So Arizona, watch out for them. Titans, they got to be getting concerned at this point. This is, on just off memory, the third or fourth performance that I can remember where the team's playing them entire strategy was to make sure they shut down Derrick Henry and make Ryan Tannehill beat them. Obviously, he couldn't do that. If that's going to be how it is for them the majority of the year, maybe not a good season for the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, with Taylor Lewan giving up those sacks and a lot of pressure coming Tannehill's way, he didn't have as much as an opportunity to try to beat them throwing the ball as maybe he will have in other games. But, the identity's kind of out there on what to do with that Tennessee team. Stack the box with 8, do what you got to do to stop Derrick Henry, play coverage, and dare him to beat you. Hey, if he does, kudos to him. But until that happens, until Julio Jones and A.J. Brown can get the ball and make something happen with it, it kind of is what it is with them. Bengals and the Vikings. Man, I continue to think year in and year out that the Vikings should be, better than they are. And then I remind myself that Kirk Cousins continues to throw 2 to 3 yard crossing routes on 3rd and long, 3rd and medium, over and over and over. Yeah, he finished with a pretty decent stat line, but that's not quarterback play that's going to win them games, especially close ones like this where Mr. Joey Burrow comes back off of that ACL tear and just has a phenomenal day. 20 of 27 passing, 2 touchdowns, 261 yards. I smiled a while ago when I talked about Ja'Marr Chase because there is a news outlet for football that kind of tweaked some words of a Ja'Marr Chase press conference and came out and said, Ja'Marr Chase said that he is having trouble catching the NFL football because it's bigger and it doesn't have the stripes on it like it does in college. Ja'Marr Chase came out and said, man, I did not say that, and then responded in kind with 5 receptions for 101 yards and a touchdown, including one beautiful deep throw from Burrow down the sideline for the touchdown that he had. Just great game from Joey Burrow. If that's how they're going to play, that's a continuation of what he did last year. If they can protect Joe and not get him injured, they got the decent receiving core, especially now with Ja'Marr Chase and Tyler Boyd. They can challenge some people. So we'll kind of see what that looks like. Jets versus Panthers, otherwise known as the Christian McCaffrey show, right? Coming off an injury, potential candidate for comeback player of the year, 98 yards rushing, 89 yards receiving, almost 200 yards from scrimmage. He won that game, almost hands down for him. Zach Wilson, he got hot late, needs better O-line play. It doesn't help that their left tackle, Mekhi Becton, is down. It sounds like he's going to be out at least half the season. Concerning for a young quarterback trying to break out in the NFL, kind of learn what's really going on. Still think he's got potential to be great this year, or at least be pretty good. Him and Mac Jones. Couple things as far as like schematics goes from that game. The Panthers kind of knew what coverage the Jets were really wanting to play Robert Saleh with his cover 3, mostly, cover 4. They drew up a lot of beaters for those particular coverages. When I say coverage beaters, it's a play that's specifically designed to get receivers or tight ends in those spaces where those zone coverages are not supposed to be at. So they kind of knew what they were going to expect. Maybe if Wilson gets a little bit better protection, can get this game to overtime, they have a better opportunity. I think you'll see better things out of Zach Wilson as he gets more comfortable in the offense and the year rolls along. Broncos versus the Giants. Man, the Broncos just beat up on a bad football team. The Giants continue to be bad. It looks like they're coached poorly. I don't know if there's a worse combination in the NFL than the quarterback, OC, and head coach combination that you have with the New York Giants. Daniel Jones, who leads the NFL in fumbles and turnovers since 2018. Jason Garrett, who has always been conservative, not like this imaginative, creative offensive coordinator. And Joe Judge, who is trying to, be Bill Belichick light, I guess, not necessarily the exact Patriot way, but pretty similar. Not looking like it's working out very well. Their offensive line is not coming along the way it should be. Their draft picks aren't panning out. Daniel Jones is not really panning out. It's going to be interesting for the Giants to see where they go, in the next year or so. Because if their players that they're drafting don't start to get any better, Dave Gettleman's got to go, and they got to find a different quarterback, and they've got to bring in an offensive coordinator that's on par with some of the other guys that you're looking at right now with some of the offenses that are running out there. Von Miller had a monster day alongside Chandler Jones, which in my opinion, and Max Crosby with the Raiders, three best defensive performances that you could have asked for the weekend. Von Miller is still showing that he's got the bend to get around the edge, to beat the tackles, beat the offensive linemen. 2 sacks, 3 tackle for loss. He lived, in the backfield. Old Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves, as I like to call him. Hey, he did his thing out there, He had a good day. If he's going to consistently provide at least average quarterback play for the Broncos, they're probably going to win quite a few games. It's going to be very similar to the season that you had with Peyton Manning's last run with Brock Osweiler. They weren't great on offense, but they did just enough, and the defense led the way for them. My notes are Jones, horrible, another fumble, bad O-line play. Same stuff as usual for the Giants. Texans versus Jaguars. Now, you heard me say I'm a Houston Texans fan. I have been very, very disconnected from that team this offseason. Getting rid of Bill O'Brien was the best thing that they've done. He has destroyed that team as far as overall roster talent. Their cap situation still currently not good, giving contracts to guys who absolutely did not deserve it. Nick Caserio has come in and had over 100+ transactions with trading players, cutting players, signing free agents. He has had more roster turnover than anybody in the NFL by a huge margin. Their returning starters are the lowest percentage in the NFL. They have the highest percentage of players on one-year contracts right now. Pretty close to what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have, but huge disparity in talent. I think that they have so many veteran players that they're not going to be largely mistake-prone. They're going to play solid football. I don't think that Lovie Smith is really the defensive coordinator that you're like so in love with at the NFL level. You saw the flats and the seam routes get busted because he runs that Tampa 2 system. They played cover 2 a huge majority of the game. They weren't rolling any safeties down, trying to disguise that they were in cover 2 or rolling them back over the top. I think they played cover 1 a handful of times. On 8 of their coverages, they actually moved a safety and tried to fool Trevor Lawrence. They kind of just let him make his own mistakes, which it worked out for him. They got Trevor Lawrence for 3 picks. The game was never close, and they played sound football. Tyrod Taylor hit Brandon Cooks for a couple of deep throws, which had the lowest completion percentage possibility out of any throws out of the weekend. So it's basically telling you that the computer model is saying that those shouldn't have been caught. you're not going to get those consistently, especially against good NFL teams. Um, I'm not impressed with anything that I've seen from Urban Meyer so far. Obviously, it's one game, but just from the offseason and kind of the feedback that we're getting out of Jacksonville, doesn't really sound like players are too bought into him. There's a picture going around where he's got a defender like glaring into the back of his head as the game was going along. We'll see if he can make adjustments. But if the Texans just did that to the Jaguars, what that should tell you is that the state of the Jaguars is very horrible. This team has been drafting in the top 5 consistently for years and years now. So if you not being better than what you are right now is not a good thing. Maybe Trevor Lawrence comes and saves the day. As far as rookie quarterback performances go, he had a rough go of it. Yes, he finished with 3 touchdowns, passing, decent amount of yardage. Last touchdown came in garbage time. He was fooled often, trying to scramble for the answers from, again, a very vanilla and basic Texans defense. So Trevor Lawrence got some work to do, just like I said in the first episode on the rookie quarterbacks that I touched on. Browns versus the Chiefs. My notes is Mahomes is eventually going to get you if you let him. And unfortunately, the Browns let him. They had a fumble by Nick Chubb late in the game. They couldn't convert on some drives that they needed to late in the game. And they didn't stop Mahomes when they needed to. The crux of this entire thing is, once again, the ball was put into Baker Mayfield's hand late in the fourth quarter to go try to win the game for them. So I actually found out that since 2018, Baker Mayfield leads all eligible NFL quarterbacks in fourth quarter interceptions. He threw another one against the Chiefs. He's getting flushed out of the pocket. He's trying to step up and throw the ball away, which is, a good thing for a quarterback to do when he's getting pressured. However, in that spot, you got to know better. You're stepping up and out of the pocket, just try to run. You're trying to do 2 things at once: step out, get the ball out, and throw it out of bounds. But the direction that he was throwing that ball in, his receiver is blanketed. It was the easiest interception that guy probably had in his career to end the football game. And, Kevin Stefanski is saying that nobody on the team is more focused than Baker Mayfield, and nobody's, trying to fix his issues, harder. But that's a trend. That's telling you that is a problem consistently. The Browns played way too well to lose this game. They ran all over the Chiefs early. Baker Mayfield was accurate, consistent. Kevin Stefanski had a great game plan called against him. Late in the third, it might have been early fourth, the Chiefs are driving. Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett meet at the quarterback, and I'm thinking, like, okay, this is probably going to seal the Browns win here. The Browns go down and get another touchdown. They get up. And I'm like, okay, that should solve this game for them. They let Mahomes turn around and score with Tyreek Hill in 2 plays, and then they just couldn't get anything going after that. And the second half in its entirety, the Browns only scored one touchdown, 7 points. It's not going to get it done against the Chiefs. You got to play 60 minutes, just like I said, against the Buccaneers. These top 1, 2, 3, and 4 teams in these divisions, you are going to have to put your foot on the gas the entire time, stick to that game plan, and you're going to have to be efficient on offense and score. Like, that's the way that you have to beat these teams. Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, if you give them the opportunity, right, to score either a tie break or tie, right, field goal, touchdown, whatever it is, or the outright opportunity to go beat you, they're going to do it. So if you put yourself into that position, like, don't be surprised when that happens. You're going to have to stay up on them and not let up. Like, that's what we saw from the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. They teed off on the offensive line the entire game, and they didn't let Mahomes get comfortable. They didn't let the receivers get free releases, and that's what you got to do. You're going to have to check Travis Kelce at the line. He cannot get off the line of scrimmage free. Hit him every single time he comes off. Bracket Tyreek Hill. And I wasn't very impressed with the Chiefs' rebuilt offensive line. I'm sure it will improve, as the season goes on. But teams that are playing the Chiefs early, like, exploit that, just like the Browns were doing. Just got to finish them off. If Mayfield is not going to be, that clutch quarterback that can make that game-sealing drive to go take care of business, then the margin for error for that team is incredibly small when it comes to playing those top teams. Dolphins versus Patriots. Man, it's a slugfest on the defense. For some reason, people don't believe that the Dolphins' defense is as good as it is. It's extremely solid. I mean, you got two easily top 10 corners. Maybe you got two of the top 8 corners in the NFL on the same team. So, like, they're going to be good in coverage. They're going to get after you. Them covering long enough, they don't have to have superstars on the defensive line. They can get after you, just with some average dudes. It's some of what the Belichick's defenses have done in prior years. Those guys that are, all-star defensive linemen, Belichick doesn't pay them because he makes sure the guys can cover, or vice versa. He has great guys to rush the passer, and he has okay cover guys, or he's just outstanding cover guys and regular average defensive linemen, excuse me. Mac Jones specifically, I thought he was very solid. He's got to make a few big more throws each game to finish off drives. They can't have Damian Harris fumbling late in the game, which sealed their fate to lose that game. 16-17 game is very tight. It's a divisional game, so they're going to play each other tough every time. I think you saw the potential of Mac Jones. What I mean by those big throws is he's going to have to push the ball down the field a little bit more, which I'm sure he will get more comfortable with this offense, continue to improve. My other big surprise before I get to the last couple games of Week 1, the Packers versus the Saints. Did not expect that whatsoever. That looked like a team that was not focused, that hadn't been practicing with each other in the offseason. It looked like a team that was more worried about what their quarterback was going to do rather than a cohesive unit. It's a reality of what it looked like to me. It's a really bad day for them. Like, the Saints' defensive line and their coverage unit did everything they wanted to do against Aaron Rodgers. There's no way a team that has Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Adams on it should ever finish a game with 3 points. It should be impossible. Consistently holding him down for an entire game is impressive by the Saints, but it's also very bad for the Packers. Like, that's not what I expected to see out of them. They got to regroup. I think that David Bakhtiari being out is continuously going to be a problem for Aaron Rodgers. I think that team was soaring into the stratosphere last year until David Bakhtiari got hurt. I really think that if he didn't get hurt, that they beat the Buccaneers, because that's how solid they were playing last year. Yeah, their defense was still giving up, too much here and there, but I think they would have squeaked out the win. I really do. So until Bakhtiari comes back, look out for that team to potentially struggle. They're going to have to get back on track fast, because that was a really horrible performance. Not a good look for Aaron Rodgers after the offseason drama that they had. Jameis Crablegs Winston, eating W's out here, throwing touchdowns, balling out like it's nobody's business. Kind of proving that Sean Payton knows exactly what to do with his offense. He knows exactly how to mold it to whoever his quarterback is, and it looks like he's gotten Jameis Winston away from these adverse, these risky throws that he's had in the past that made him, set the record for interceptions in a season, the first 30 for 30 guy ever, 30 touchdowns and 30 picks. I think the Saints had a couple injuries out of that game. They had to sign some players. I think Lattimore is going to be out for a little bit, their top corner. I think they lost one of their defensive linemen, and they also lost their center, Cesar Ruiz. They brought in Austin Reitler, who started at center for the Chiefs the past 2 seasons, so they'll probably be okay there. But the trenches is where the games are won in the NFL. And right now, the Saints on offense and defense, both of those lines are top 3, top 4 in the NFL. They're going to maul guys game in and game out. If that's the way that Jameis Winston is going to play, the Saints are going to be a serious contender this year. There's no way around it. Rams and Bears, otherwise known as the Matt Stafford show. I'm not going to talk about this one very much because kind of what I thought was going to happen with that Rams offense is exactly what happened. If you go back to the first show that I did with Brian and Jason, I said that Matt Stafford has never had the coaching, the talent, and just the overall environment around him that he's going to have with the Rams. Second play of the game, Stafford throws a 60-plus yard touchdown. Easy. Does the same thing later on in the game with Cooper Kupp. Sean McVay's wizardry is, busting coverages, getting guys clearly open, and he's going to continue to utilize that rocket arm that Stafford has. We are going to see, in my opinion, what we should have been seeing from a team around Matt Stafford with the Rams this season, because you're not going to have those same shackles that Jared Goff would sometimes put on Sean McVay. He's just going to have fun scheming up plays, and that defense is nasty. They're going to ball out, and they're going to be a huge problem for teams this year. Matt Nagy, Bears, hey man, Andy Dalton ain't it. I don't care if he grew a wicked beard since he moved up there to Chicago. The thing is nice. He's not your starter. He's not the guy that you need. He averaged, I think, one of the lowest yards per attempt over the weekend. He had one throw over 10 yards that entire game. Anybody think that Justin Fields could probably do a little bit better than that? My concern, as I said in the first show before the season started, was that offensive line is probably going to be terrible, probably not going to be great for Justin Fields. But he has 4-4 wheels. How much worse can it be for that offense? Don't know if Matt Nagy is ever going to be the play caller that we thought he was going to be, coming from coaching under Andy Reid. But if I'm the owner of that team, they think ahead. They want to make sure they develop their players. You can't keep wasting that defense. You can't keep wasting Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks, Roquan Smith. You guys can go out there and win ball games, but not with Andy Dalton. All right, the Red Rifle has seen better days. Last game of the week, the Oakland Raiders and Baltimore Ravens. It's another game that I really didn't see coming, but now that I thought about it a little bit afterwards, maybe should have had a couple more, indicators that this might have been not a really good game for them. So a couple indicators were all the running back injuries. They had 3 running backs have major injuries, two ACL tears, 1 Achilles tear, and another ACL tear with Marcus Peters. And that right there opened that defense up. Not having Marcus Peters looked like it made a huge difference. They let Derek Carr throw for 435 yards on him. Derek Carr ain't no top 5 quarterback to me. He's pretty good, but that's a really bad performance from your defense, who looked like they badly missed Marcus Peters. Couple of times they did get pressure on Derek Carr, but it didn't look like it was extremely consistent enough to shut him down. Matt Judon's not there anymore. They don't really have that superstar edge rusher that's going to put pressure on them when they need him to. They do obviously still have Calais Campbell, and they do have solid guys on defense, but we'll see if somebody steps up and takes over that Matt Judon role and carries on the Ravens' hard-nosed defense. A couple other indicators that this game was probably going to go badly for them. The running back depth, right? Like they got one guy who's never started an NFL game as their number 1 back. They brought in Latavius Murray on a short week, who did end up having a touchdown, and he will look better as the season progresses. But they traded Orlando Brown to the Chiefs, right? And then they brought in Alejandro Villanueva, who's been the left tackle for the Steelers for, I think, the past 5 years, maybe more. He's been with them for a while. And they put him at right tackle. Now, I don't know why teams continue to do this, like, hey, that guy's a great offensive lineman, he's athletic, we'll just slide him into this spot. I saw the Texans do it with multiple different linemen, and they looked horrible. They never looked as great as they did from the team they signed them from. Why? Because you're putting them in a spot they're not comfortable with playing. There's not that many offensive linemen in the NFL that you can just plug and play in different spots. There's a reason they play over in their position. That's what they're used to. That's what they're comfortable with. That's what they are most skilled at. Leave them there. As a military vet, Alejandro Villanueva, I hope that he is able to improve, right, and get comfortable at right tackle. But he let Max Crosby and Carl Nassib beat the brakes off that offensive line. Ronnie Stanley, I didn't think had a great game either. Lamar Jackson got sacked a couple times, fumbled a couple times, ultimately probably ended up costing them that game, to be quite honest. Don't think that Lamar Jackson is ever going to be that guy that's going to go out there and beat you with his arm consistently. I just haven't seen it from him. He did have that MVP season where he's throwing for 40-plus touchdowns, but that's also the season where every play that Greg Roman called worked. That's not looking like it's the case anymore. In the offseason, just a couple weeks ago, somebody asked, hey, do you think the NFL has caught up to you? Lamar Jackson was like, nah, no way. Looking kind of interesting at this point, right? Couple performances against the Titans and other teams to where they're stopping the running game. Lamar is not beating them with his, just passing. So until he consistently is able to do that, I think you're going to see the same thing from teams. You're going to see them pressuring the run game as hard as they can and saying, hey, Lamar, go beat us with your arm. Until you can do it, we're not going to stop doing this stuff. So that's all I got for week 1. I'm going to go over just a couple of matchups that I think are pretty interesting for week 2. Obviously this video is not it's not designed to be short. So if anybody's still hanging with me at this point, I greatly appreciate it. If not, hey, I hope you learned a little bit from the little parts of this video earlier. Again, this is the inaugural episode, so as I continue to do this, we'll get a little bit more efficient at it. We'll get a little bit better idea of how in detail I want to go with each one of these games. We might just go over, studs and duds of the week. Who surprised me? Who did I think was bad? Who to look out for, in the next week's game or whatever the case is. So week 2, a couple of matchups that I think are very interesting. San Francisco and Philly, starting off with that game. The reason I think that one is so interesting is because of a statement that I made a while ago. These games are won in the trenches for the most part. And the offensive line of San Francisco, as well as the defensive line versus the lines over there from, Philadelphia, it's going to be a slugfest. This is monster trucks crashing into each other the whole game. This is, the derby cars hitting each other. This is it's mayhem and carnage. Just what you're going to see. If that's stuff that you like, definitely make sure you check out this game or at least catch the highlights from it because it's gonna be massive carnage going on there. Other games that I think are going to be fun to watch. Obviously, with Sunday Night Football, you got Kansas City versus Baltimore. Are they going to bounce back? Baltimore. I don't think they've beaten Kansas City in the past couple of years with Lamar Jackson. I might be wrong. Somebody can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure Kansas City has won those matchups each time they've played. They've been close. They've been competitive. Going to take a lot of adjustments from that Ravens team coming off that loss to the Raiders. The Dallas Cowboys and the Chargers. The reason why I think this one is very interesting is because Dallas is going to be down 4 bona fide starters, 4 major contributors. And Justin Herbert is picking up right where he left off from his rookie campaign. You got Joey Bosa over there, and mainly because the quarterbacks that are playing here. Dak Prescott, I think, is going to be a top 5, top 6 quarterback for this season and beyond. Justin Herbert's not going to be too far off. If he keeps playing how he's playing, he's going to be up there. It's going to be a real fun matchup. And then I got Seattle and Tennessee as another interesting game for me because is Tennessee going to bounce back? Is Seattle's new look offense going to let Russ cook and run the ball efficiently and be efficient overall? Is Tennessee going to start out the year 0-2 for a team that just brought in Julio Jones that we think is going to be a playoff contender? That's going to be something to look at. We got 17 games. We got an extra game this season, so one game's not going to be the end all be all, but starting out 0-2, that momentum is not good. You don't want that. Historically in the NFL, teams start out 0-2, 0-3. Their chances of making the playoffs just nosedive off a cliff. It's probably not going to happen. And the last game I'll talk about here real quick is Pittsburgh versus the Raiders. So is that defense going to shut down the offense that we just saw from Derek Carr? Is the defense from the Raiders going to come out and do what they just did to the Ravens? I don't know. Is Max Crosby and Carl Nassib going to put pressure on Ben? This is interesting matchups to me, right? Like two tough teams in the AFC. We'll back up that statement. We'll see if the Raiders can continue to be a tough team, but fun matchup nonetheless. Great football going into week 2. You know, just happy that football is back and we got content to watch and content to talk about. If you don't have access to Red Zone, I would highly suggest that you go out there and get it. I use Fubo to stream my games and also Red Zone at the same time. It's a relatively affordable package. You know, lets you not miss anything and watch games at the same time. I appreciate it again. Like I said, if anybody is able to stay and catch all of this video, hey man, if you like the content, you know, throw a like out there at the video, share it to your friends. Again, we'll refine the content a little bit and kind of figure out how in depth that we want to go. The point of the show is again to get into the details of the game. You know, why did this team dominate? You know, or why did this team lose, or what the case was. So we might dwindle it down to just a handful of teams. That way we can really talk about, you know, the analytics of the game and kind of what went down. This show is obviously not sponsored. It's brought to you by Brad right here. So, you know, this is just fun for me to do. And again, I appreciate your time. You guys take care. You know, take care of each other. You know, good vibes and motivation. Stay safe out there.